Hey, welcome back to the State of Love and Trust. It's episode 280, and this week we are just inches away from Pearl Jam's 35th anniversary. Can you believe it? I barely can. Well, in all these years, there have been a lot of books written about the band. Well, there's a new one. This one right here. Pearl Jam Live, 35 years of legendary music and revolutionary shows. We're talking with its author, Selena Fragassi, next on the State of Love and Trust.
Hey, I'm Mike McCready from Pearl Jam.
Hey kids, this is Mark Arm from Mudhoney.
I'm Kevin Martin from Candlebox.
Hi, I'm Dave Cruzen.
I'm Tim Montana.
Hey, I'm James Joseph from James and the Cold Gun.
I am Matt Vaughn from Easy Street Records.
This is Richard Stuver. And this is the State of Love and Trust.
The State of Love and Trust.
The State of Love and Trust.
Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. Feed the algorithm.
Welcome back to another episode of the State of Love and Trust. It's a Pearl Jam podcast, and one of your two hosts, Jason Kerepesi, and alongside me, as always, is
Paul Ghiglieri. Shake and bake.
Oh, the shaker is back. That's a callback.
The shaker is back. Pen of power. I got an egg shaker now.
I need my own.
You need props, bro.
I do need props. I do need props, and I don't know where they are. I don't have anything. You know what I do have?
Hey, you know what prop we both need? What do you
say?
Oh, yeah.
The book that we're talking about today.
Exactly. I'm excited.
With the author, Selena Fragassi. Selena's going to be here in like 2 minutes, possibly less. Let's get through the housekeeping post-haste. If you are watching here on YouTube, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Please, dear God, the algorithm requires you. It demands you. It demands you, Paul.
It does demand you. And that's why you should rate, review, and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform of choice. Feed that algorithm. 'Tis the season. Harvest it if you must. Whatever it takes, just push it along. That's what we need you to do. Shake and bake that algorithm, baby.
Paul, as this episode comes out, if you're listening to or watching it, oh God. It is the day before Pearl Jam's 35th birthday. Today is if the episode comes out and you're listening to it now, today, it's the 21st of October, 2025. 35 years ago, mañana, the band played at the off-ramp. And so we're going to celebrate that through the book that you just held up, Pearl Jam Live, 35 years of legendary music and revolutionary shows, and its author, Selena Fragassi. So before we get to this fabulous book and its author, we've got links there below, all fun stuff. Support the show, support our nonprofit of the month, which is the ARC. Good stuff that they're doing. And Patreon, Podshop, all that stuff. It's all below.
Podshop. Buy a shirt. If you don't want to buy one of our shirts, buy a Pearl Jam shirt. This is another season. How about that? Huh?
Ooh, Halloween shirts. Love that. And we give away stuff too. So we got stickers, we got pins, we got guitar picks. Maybe you'll get this. Maybe you'll get the Mount Baker Theater if you're a patron. CD. So all kinds of fun stuff. Links are below for that. And let's just get to the heat of the meat, and that is with Selena Fragassi and her fabulous new book. This week's guest has been a music writer for the better part of 2 decades, with her work appearing in a number of publications, including Spin, Loudwire, AV Club, and the Chicago Sun-Times, the same city in which she resides. She's written many books, including one on Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill at 30, and her newest chronicles our favorite band, Pearl Jam, through the lens of the concert experience. It's called Pearl Jam 35 Years of Legendary Music and Revolutionary Shows. Welcome to our show, Selena Fragassi.
Hello. Thanks, you guys, for having me.
It is an absolute pleasure. Thank you for gracing us with your presence on this fine evening. Looking forward to this. I really enjoyed this, by the way, so I'm excited to talk to you about it.
And thank you for staying up a little bit late. I know it's later as we tape this in Chicago, where you are.
Yeah.
So, did you have any coffee? What do you do to stay awake? Or are you just naturally a night bird?
No, I just don't sleep. So, early mornings, late nights. It's just, I don't know. That's just, I can stay awake. I'm pretty good at it.
Okay, fair enough. We have some other contributors on this show that live on the East Coast, and it's like, can you please stay up? And then it's like they're just chugging Mountain Dew, and so they stay awake and then they got to be up at 5 a.m. for the kids. So I'm like, thank God, Selena's okay. Whew.
No, this is a good hour. Good hour.
Okay, good. Yeah. I just listed a bunch of your professional credentials, and I think it's safe to say that you've carved out a very lovely career here, writing about the rock and roll. Now, our audience, the Pearl Jam audience, they're strong supporters of Pearl Jam. They're very ardent, and of course, they're going to be very excited about a brand new Pearl Jam book, and they will go out and buy that. Good. But they will also silently judge you a little bit, and so
I know.
I want to make sure that, we get your Pearl Jam pedigree on the record, because I know you're a fan, but do the people know? So let's let them know, right?
Oh, yeah. Definitely a fan, for sure. Like, since I was in 8th grade. Yeah. So it's
what's the origin story then? Give me the how you became a fan, maybe the favorite song, maybe the favorite album kind of thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, the first memory I have is I was in 8th grade. I was in Catholic school, and I was at that age where I'm like questioning everything and like, do I believe in this stuff? Fight the system. And it was, that was in the early to mid 90s, and it was a great time for music if you were in that headspace. And so,
and then you heard Pearl Jam play Catholic Boy and said, "This is it."
Yeah. And I also knew that Eddie had spent part of his childhood in Evanston. And my mom, there was like a weird thing where she used to visit this restaurant with her coworkers called Don's Fish Market in Skokie, and she swears he was a waiter there. I don't know. Anyway, tangent.
Oh. I mean, he moved when he was like 12 or 13, so I don't know. It's a little early.
I know. The timeline didn't work out.
Well, though he did move back for like 2 years after he left high school, so maybe he might have been like 18, 19.
Yeah. I don't know. She could be mixing him up with some other guy with long hair. Who knows? But,
that's Gary. That's not Ed. That's Gary.
Yeah. So I was in 8th grade, and I remember some of my fellow rebel schoolmates had started a zine where, total copier, Staples, and they were reviewing albums. And so they asked if I wanted to. It was not Pearl Jam that I reviewed. I think it was Green Day. But I remember someone else had reviewed Pearl Jam, and I was like, who's this band? And I got to listen to them. And I think at the time, QN1 was huge in Chicago in the 90s. They always played Pearl Jam, and I was listening to that radio station, and I just got super gleaned into Alive and Black, everything on 10, really. Started from the beginning. And, I'll be honest with you, those first 3 albums were like my Bibles. And then I kind of fell off a bit, like around Yields. I think just because my own musical preferences at that time were changing. I don't think my ear was fully matured yet to kind of understand what they were doing beyond the traditional rock lane. But I'll tell you, I came right back into it when I got an assignment to cover PJ20 in Alpine Valley.
So this was your first show.
Everything changed. I don't know, because I feel like I must have seen them before then, because that was 2011. Like I must have. But the first memory of a Pearl Jam show for me, the most monumental, was PJ20.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about that.
It was, again, I had not stayed up with them in those interim years between like 96 and 2011. I mean, I knew when their albums came out. I heard the singles on the radio. I'd read the interviews, but wasn't in the world. Mm-hmm. And I got this assignment because I lived in Chicago's Alpine Valley, so it made sense for me to cover it for Pop Matters. And I was excited, but I was not prepared for the emotional response I would have. The involuntary emotional response. I mean, I cried at this weekend multiple times.
Wow. Did you expect when you were driving out there, were you what kind of a fan base were you expecting to see? Like, what were you expecting to see? Just, did you think that you would find community there, or did you think it was just going to be, hey, here's a show in Alpine Valley, so yeah, let's go?
Here's what I thought I would find, and this sounds very stereotypical, but I'll be honest. I thought I was going to see people who had repressed high school feelings, wearing flannels, all in a gathering to listen to these bands that were just nostalgic for them, right? I thought it was maybe the same mindset I was in. I was not prepared for the amount of international fandom and community where language did not matter. We all nothing mattered, gender, color of our skin, language. It just transcended that. I was not prepared for that. And it was one of the most beautiful communal experiences I've ever had at a show. Not to mention just the really special moments, like when Chris Cornell came out, he was rumored the whole weekend, and then he did, and they did all the Temple of the Dog material. I remember there was like a rumor that they were staying in downtown Lake Geneva. And I was telling my friend who came with me, I'm like, well, we have to go follow the bus, like naturally. I need to talk to them. I want to talk to them. I was just I was so obsessed with that from that moment forward. It just totally changed the game for me, that show, that weekend.
You didn't see Yellow Lead Better, which is a crime against humanity.
Okay, so yes, to this day, because I didn't want to get stuck in traffic. And I was like, they're probably not going to, play one of the biggies for the finale. Like, why wouldn't they?
You didn't want to get stuck. What is this, like leaving in the top of the eighth of a blowout baseball game? Well, I'm just going to say,
as a journalist,
you wouldn't believe
it's a rock show.
But as a journalist, I'm on a deadline. So it's like, I didn't have the time to devote to sitting in traffic. I'm always worried about that, when I have a deadline, because they wanted it like right after. So that was my rationale. It's not because I was trying to skirt around it or anything, but
that's fair.
It killed me. It killed me not to hear Yellow Lead Better. Good God. Can't even say it. Yeah.
Now let's talk a little bit about this guy right here.
Yeah.
Now this book is set up like a set list. In a sense, you got 3 acts, right? So the chapters are all labeled relevant song titles. And you go back to the group's genesis, which I guess for anyone watching or listening is probably very keenly aware of. There have been a handful of books over the last 5 to 10 years that I think have tried, I guess, to articulate like this confluence of events that has created this band, including their own Pearl Jam 20 documentary in 2011. What I want to know is, what do you believe you learned and transmitted onto the page that I guess like a hardcore Pearl Jam fan maybe didn't realize about these early days?
Yeah, that was a tough part for me, because I'm like, I don't know that the solid Pearl Jam fan is going to learn anything new in this book, because those people are dedicated. The community is very dedicated, and they spend a lot of time reading up on this band, and probably know more than I even do after all the research I did, right? So I think my goal was to like, how can I write differently about Pearl Jam? And for me, it was like, I had this thesis of how Pearl Jam's career the longevity has been there because they have been a band for the people. Mm-hmm. They have so connected with their community and stood up for them, and have taken on bullies for them, have stood up for environmental rights and women's rights. And to me, that all dials back into the live experience, because I think that they are unparalleled in what they do in the concert setting, how voracious they've been, the marathon shows, the unique set list. And so I really wanted to zero in on that live career over the past 35 years, while still incorporating the history. Because if there's someone who's, maybe new to the world of Pearl Jam, or maybe was like me and fell off for a little bit and wanted to really understand who this band was, I wanted to provide the entire kind of background of that. And I think it obviously starts with Seattle and Mother Love Bone, and the whole community that originated there. And so I wanted to make that a big part of the book in the beginning.
Now, Seattle was very much on like a metaphorical island, musically speaking, because no one is touring up there, right? It's just not economically viable to go up there for most acts. So you had that really supportive culture where everyone's checking everybody else's band out. But while you're supporting them, you're also kind of like, shit, I got to get better. These guys are so good. I got to get better. How do you think that ethos affected Pearl Jam's live element in the early years, at least?
Yeah, it's really interesting. One of the things that surprised me the most is how much of the punk influence was on the Seattle scene. I mean, like, you can hear it, right? But I didn't understand, like, exactly what you just talked about, is that I'm in Chicago, so we get every band on every tour ever here. I didn't recognize remote Seattle, especially in that era, didn't get all the bands that the rest of the country did. And it a lot of times was the punk bands and their vans driving there. And that became a huge part of the foundation of that sound. But, maybe a healthy competition. I think what really the Seattle scene thrived on was the community and the non-cutthroatness of it. I think it's so different from the New Yorks and the LAs. And, in Chicago, it's very similar. It's very much built on community, and you're constantly working with other members, and you're doing side projects, and you're guesting on other people's albums. And so I don't know that there was like maybe it was just more of like, they're going to make us better by watching them. They all went out to shows like nightly and saw their brethren doing their what they did best. And so maybe it was just, wanting to play at that level. But I don't know. In everything I've researched and understood about Seattle, I never felt like there was a competitive bone.
Interesting. I would agree with that. I mean, you having lived in LA, being from San Francisco, going to different, iconic venues from the Wiltern to the Fillmore to Hollywood Bowl. I mean, all these epic places. Yeah, the Viper Room. You just see these bands that are like pay to play, and they're just combing and clawing and scratching and trying to work their way to the top, almost at the expense of each other. And Pearl Jam was always part of this communal experience of saying, when we're on stage, we're going to celebrate the other artists, whether they're part of our act, part of the show or not. You know what I mean? We're going to encourage you to go see these other bands. Now, when you were combing through, you're going through a lot of interviews, going through videos, the bootlegs, websites, and a lot more, I guess, to kind of curate this timeline through the lens of Pearl Jam's live performances. And I think as authentic as you found it to be, in doing that research, what is something that maybe like surprised you, like an anecdote that made you think of two markers in the sand, and you go, whoa, I didn't realize that this informed that?
That's a great question. I don't know if it was like this informed that, but what a theory I came up with was that, obviously the Seattle sound happened before Mother Love Bone. There was like a long lineage there of the Seattle sound, and you had Melvins and even before that. But I often wonder if it's because Andy Wood died and everyone was connected to Andy, if that's what brought the scene closer together. Like, I wonder if Andy had not tragically passed away, I wonder if it would be a different sensibility. I wonder even if Pearl Jam would have ever come to be, obviously. So I think like if of any pinnacle moment in that scene, I think it was the death of Andy Wood that changed everything.
Yeah, that's a great point. Something that kind of blew my mind that I guess I never really thought of was you wrote that Eddie's first time playing guitar with the band live was March 1st in the Netherlands, I think 92. Right? Was it 92, 94, something like that? And thinking to myself, I guess I never really thought about, because you just started doing it. Like, you didn't really think about, oh, this was the moment. So I'm reading the book and I'm like, that day? Is it really that day? Like, just one of those facts that kind of eludes you. And there's a few of them in there that I was like, oh, I didn't think, because like, how could you possibly, as a crazy fan like we are, not have known all the things at some point? But even if I go back and watch my favorite show over and over again, I'm always like, there's one thing in that episode that I didn't catch the last 800 times that I watched it. And it's the same thing with the Pearl Jam history. So I'm glad that I was able to learn something new. That I don't mean it like negatively, but it's like, wow, there's like another little nugget that just adds to the lore of what this band's about, from big to small. And
I think there's so many of those little Easter eggs in their history too. Like, I never knew that he was roommates with Jerry Cantrell. And it's funny because my publisher, when we were going through edits, she's like, can we cut this? I'm like, we can absolutely not cut that. That's interesting. Like, I didn't know that they were roommates, and I think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were so many things that, my memory is not working right now, but there were things that surprised me. But I think it was the bigger thematic things that surprised me more than the small minutia, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You quoted Kelly Curtis on page 64 of this book here about the reception that 10 and its sound had. And Kelly said, quote, people didn't know what 10 was, but once people came out and saw them live, this light bulb would go on. Now, you've written about a lot of musicians. So I guess question here is, what makes Pearl Jam's music so unique in this way? Like, where someone might say, what's this band about? Well, just got to go see them live.
Well, I think it's exactly that, right? It's like you would hear these singles on the radio, Alive, Even Flow, and it was great, of course, no doubt. But it was like nothing compared to seeing this band live. So I think he had a point, is like when people started seeing them in the live atmosphere, that energy, that passion, the delivery of particularly like Eddie just giving his all every single night, or Mike McCready's solos, or their chemistry together. I think it was, not something that people were like familiar with, especially because at that time it was so different from what had happened in the decades and years prior, because you had hair metal and you had pop and everything was very polished. This was so raw. And I think it just connected to a whole generation of people who were needing that. I think, you talk about like Gen X, and that was like, and I consider myself that, even though I'm on the tail cusp of being a millennial, but all of our parents, we had 2-parent working households, and we were left to care for ourselves. We were like the latchkey kid generation. And it was like, we often didn't have the like sort of people to talk to or vent about our day, or, like you would have had if mom maybe was still working at home or dad was at home or something like that. So I think there's something to be said about how the generation that kind of grew up with Pearl Jam really needed that voice. And it was especially live that they felt it.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a very good point. And it's interesting because many of the members of the band were on record as saying that they wanted to create albums so they could go play live.
Exactly. That was their whole purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why they kind of like rushed
tour,
through 10, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They just wanted a reason to play.
And then Jeff was like, we're not a band yet. We got to play more songs. Can we go do these demos or do this record just so we can go out there, be better? And by the time you actually hear of us and recognize that the album's out, we'll actually be good. And it obviously worked out, but it doesn't.
You know what? Going back to the thing that surprised me, I can't believe that there was only 14 days from the time that Eddie came to Seattle to when they had their first show, and their first show was so solid, and they had all that material. Like, that's insane.
Well, and watching Ed's metamorphosis just in that show alone, obviously, I think it was probably, I think you said Victoria, right? A little bit further down the line when you really got the, oh shit, there he is. But you could start seeing it creep in that really bad VHS copy that's on YouTube of that off-ramp show where he's like huddled, he's got his jacket, he's got his hair over his face, he's doing this thing where he's looking down, and eventually he whips the hair back, maybe the jacket comes off, and he starts giving you a little taste of what's to come. Like, holy, like the 300 people in that room. Chris was in there, Kim Thayil was in there, a lot of people in there, Karen Mason Blair, all these people that in the scene, like, holy shit, like, and so many people were going in there being like, all right, Stoney and Jeff's new band, how do you replace Andy? Who's this kid gonna be? Holy shit.
Can you imagine like the pressure that would have been on Eddie Vedder that night? I can't even imagine. He's a newbie in Seattle. He's barely knows this band he's working with. He knows what he's up against as like, is he the replacement for Andy Wood? There's so much negativity. Lance Mercer was like, I wanted to walk out. Like nobody wanted to welcome him at that point. And so I can't even imagine what was going through his head. So I understand why he was shrouding like that, but it was cool to see him evolve in real time.
And thank God for Chris Cornell, because big brother, little brother, like that was key. You rightly point out that Pearl Jam has used their platform and popularity to champion a lot of causes that they love since kind of the beginning. And you point out the Rock for Choice show in LA here in '92. How much do you think that their selflessness and their desire to really affect change around them kind of influences audiences? Like how does it kind of affect your experience as a lover of the songs? What's the multiplier there?
Huge. I mean, if you talk even just about Rock for Choice, that was women's rights, right? And like, who was speaking out for women at that point, except for women-led bands? There wasn't like guy bands sticking up for women at the time. And here's Eddie Vedder writing, on his arms about it. And I think that was to me the foundation of building this fandom, was really like sticking up for people. There was so much happening in the early 90s at that time that they were just such champions. And I think as they kept doing that, and I don't think there was an agenda with it. I think they truly just really believed in all those causes. I think it just brought more people into the fold because they saw someone who was willing to go to bat for them and talk about the issues, use their platform for good, because not many people were doing that at that point, other than like the fringe acts, but like a mainstream act to be putting their voices and their on the line. It was huge.
I want to zero in a little bit on this idea of like a moment. So something that Anthony Kosminski mentioned in his Pearl Jam moment was that Pearl Jam's catalog is deeper than most, which allows a song like, for example, Present Tense to hit harder than any of the hits at that 2006 Chicago show that he was at. And I guess you could say that it's easy to say, well, they got a lot of great songs. But what do you think the audience's role is in that? Because Present Tense didn't really have much of a life until 2006. Specifically, I think that live stream after a Letterman taping.
Yeah, I think, Pearl Jam speaks to the diehards. And it's like, I've seen so many shows in my life where it's like everything's expected. I'm going to hear song 3 is going to be their latest single. They're going to probably have a cover. The encore is going to have the other big single. It's so formulaic, and like it's not boring per se. I still love seeing all the shows I see, but Pearl Jam is so against the grain in every single show that they do. I mean, they're like, it's the same way they've been with all of their albums and not caring about radio hits. It's just like we stand by all of our music, all of it's important. We want to make this a unique experience every single night. And like, how smart is that? Because you're going to get people buying tickets to multiple nights and traveling because they don't know what's going to happen at a certain show. It was genius in just even a marketing standpoint, but that was obviously not their rationale. So I think, you know, and again, seeing them live is way better than seeing them or hearing them on record, because they put that 3-dimensional sensory capabilities into their set. And so I think people then maybe hear a song different live and then appreciate it more at that point because of what they take away from the show.
What did you feel like? 'Cause you've been to a number of shows, like you think 40 or so, right?
Of Pearl Jams?
Yeah.
I think probably like 10. I've been to about 10 shows.
I thought it was much more than that. It was still 10's a good number.
Yeah, no, I think more like 10. Probably maybe more than 10. Every time they're in Chicago, basically. And now it's because I'm a journalist, I'll end up covering it. But the thing is, I like to take off my critic hat because I have to just kind of remain unbiased when I see a band. But I want to be a fan, so I go to the next night too.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, so in those 10 shows, you have seen hits, you have seen deeper cuts, and where I'm sitting, like when I go to a show and I see a deeper cut, even if it's a song I don't hold as high as esteem as some other song, the way that they present it, it's almost like, yeah, this is something that you may not have heard before, but like it's almost not even said, but like it's implied that just look around you, everyone's going to help you out. This is a weird ass song, but everyone's going to have a great time. We're going to do this thing together.
Yeah.
I don't know. When did you first notice that yourself at one of your shows?
Oh man, that's a great question. I'll have to think about that. But while I'm thinking about it, I will say that that's the really cool thing, right? Because like normally if you see a band and they're playing obscure stuff, it's crickets. People are like, what? Looking at their phones. They don't know how to sing along to it.
Especially if they have big hits, like Rolling Stones or something like that. And you're like, oh, I like Paint It Black. And you're like, what the fuck is this song from? Like,
yeah, but Pearl Jam, like, absolutely not. That's like the antithesis. It's like everyone there is singing along to every song to where I'm like, wait a minute, am I behind here? Like everybody else in the room knows this. And I don't think I've ever heard this song live.
You don't know other sides lyrics? Come on, man.
Yeah, I know. Gosh, I can't think of one. Like, sadly, so many of my concert experiences now are such a blur because I go to so many shows that I remember like feelings, and I remember like, my God, the Wrigley Field show with the rain delay. I remember so much of that show, the visceralness of this, like waiting in the concourse thinking I was going to die, but I'm like, nope, I'm sticking it out because I know they're going to come out. I know they will.
I was offered a ticket to that show, and I was like, I can't afford it, man.
Yeah, I got a story that's...
Well, you want to tell it, Paul?
So Jason and I, during the Backspacer tour, they did 4 nights at the Gibson Amphitheater, which has since been raised and turned into the Harry Potter land or world at Universal Studios in LA. And I went to the first 2 nights with Jason. And I told him, I was like, I can't do 4 shows. I'm like, this is like breaking the wallet right now. He had tickets to all 4. So I was like, I'll go to the last shows. I think I'm going to take night 3 off. Like, I mean, I've heard everything I can imagine they're going to play in the catalog. There might be 3 or 4 songs that they'll play that I won't hear on the 4th night. You know what I mean? That is the night that Chris Cornell comes out and does Hunger Strike with them. And that's the show I missed. So,
oh man.
So I never, that's the one song I'll never get to hear live because of that. So
that's not, well, that's almost not true. With Eddie.
Yeah.
Because
with Eddie. With the 2.
Because we went to the Temple of the Dog show where we were Eddie. So you got a little.
Yes. The audience was Eddie. I loved that. That was the coolest part of the whole night for me. Yeah.
And the roles were reversed in Australia and Pittsburgh of the Dark Matter tour, where we didn't have Chris, so the audience was Chris. So they kind of flipped the script on us, which was a nice thing. You quote Cameron Crowe a bunch in this book, and I think there's a point where he's kind of in awe of Pearl Jam fans kind of sticking around and evolving from maybe finding the band in the early mid-90s, like Ticketmaster's Time or something like that, to 12 years later when he's watching them on the Avocado Tour at the Forum. What do you think is unique about, and we talk about this all the time, and you were talking about how you fell off because you didn't really latch on at the time with what they were writing about, but so many people have grown with the band, and as they have matured in their songwriting, or Eddie has matured in his approaches to songwriting, a lot of fans are like, wow, he's writing with me. Why how does that happen? What is so, is it just Eddie? Like, why does that happen? I don't know any other bands that happens to.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, right, because it's like, and I talk about this in the book, that there's like these three eras of Pearl Jam that really mirrored kind of like a 3-act play to me, where you sort of have the foundation, you have the conflict, and you have the resolution. And so I feel like there was this arc that maybe a lot of people also kind of fell in line with in their own personal lives. But, I think it was hard too, because during the Ticketmaster era, they just weren't here. They weren't touring. There wasn't a way to kind of really see them at that point, unless you kind of were able to go to one of those off-kilter shows that they did. But I'm frankly surprised that people still grew with them, to be honest with you, because, there were so many times in this band thought that they were going to like want to even hang it up after Roskilde and after, the Ticketmaster thing. And so I think Cameron Crowe was maybe like gleaning to that same idea, because this band, they never really had, like, beyond the first 3 albums, a huge radio hit at that point. There weren't music videos. So the fact that people still stuck with them, I think, is actually really, really surprising. And I think it just, again, they fostered this community that just kept with them and wanted to hear anything that they would put out. But it is surprising to me.
Let's talk about that community.
Yeah.
And the sense of family that we see at these shows. I want to specifically reference 2 of your books, My Pearl Jam Moments. So Marie McKenzie jokingly refers to herself as the oldest Pearl Jam fan, but she also recounts how she loved to see so many generations at that 2000 Seattle show. And Matt Lambert, for example, another one, had never been to Europe, flies to the 2018 Poland show where total strangers literally show him the time of his life. So what do you think it is about this band's music, concert experiences, the ethos that draws, I guess, the best in people and convinces them to bring that next generation, or even like Jason and I at these last 2 Ohana shows, these 2 years of Ohana shows where we brought our own kids?
Yeah. I think because, you see the band live, of course, you want to keep going back like we talked about, but I think it goes even beyond the music, and it's the community itself. And to me, it's like, you want to reunite with those same people that you saw a show with 5 years ago and you became friends. Now you're all going to go meet up in another country or another state. And it's becoming this way of having this travel log of like literally following the band, but also having a journey with it. And I think, again, because every show is so unique and special, you can remember each one, and each one gave you a different feeling, and each one had a different moment that you remember most. And so I think, the what they call them, the Jamily, the family, but it's super strong. And the band itself is a family. And I think it starts from the top and it trickles down. And so there's this just incredible sense of community. And they've become like the Grateful Dead of a new generation, because, I don't understand why maybe my parents or aunts and uncles loved the Grateful Dead, but I can kind of understand it while seeing a band like Pearl Jam that bucks all trends of any band that is in existence today. No bands have like fan clubs like Tent Club. It just doesn't exist. And so they've kept that infrastructure the entire time.
Why is there no other band like in the last,
I don't know,
20 years? I can't think of any, and I've seen a ton of great shows, as have you. I've brought my son to a number of shows now at this point, which is great to see him like latching on, like, oh man, I took him to see Offspring. He was like air drumming along. I'm like, this is great. Yeah. But like, I don't see myself, even with the bands and the shows, and I'm like, wow, that was a great show, being like, hey, we should all hang out and communicate on social media and get together every few years for a new show across that just doesn't happen.
It doesn't.
And I can't figure out what is it about Pearl Jam's music that is making that happen.
I wonder if it's like because a Pearl Jam show is so narrative, like it's so vulnerable. Eddie tells so many amazing stories. I love when they come to Chicago because he always has some kind of personal anecdote, whether it's about a sports team or when he was here a couple of years ago, he talked about going back to his grandma's house, and it was just so moving. It's like he doesn't have to share that stuff, He doesn't have to open up in that way, but he chooses to do so, and it makes them so relatable and makes you feel like they're on your level. And it's just it's no bands are really like that anymore. And I don't mean to downplay or criticize other touring bands, but sometimes it does feel like it's not phoned in, but it's just it's systematic and it's formulaic and it's the same thing night after night. So it's like I can talk to my friend in New York and we basically saw the same show. I don't need to see it again on this tour. I don't need to see it. I saw it.
That has always bugged me too. Like once you get a taste of, seeing a few Pearl Jam shows, and you're like, I've had like, 9 repeats over 4 shows, and I've seen like Metallica like 20 times. I've seen Foo Fighters like 6 or 7 times. There's a number of bands I've seen multiple times, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna not go when they come back, but also I know what they're gonna play. And so like when Foo Fighters played here a year and a half ago. It was great seeing Josh Freese because he was slamming. So that's a little. I'm sure Alon Rubin's great, but the show was great. But like the best part for me was when they played like Generator. I was like, oh man, haven't heard this song in 20 years, and like no one else is. It's like crickets. I'm like, we're gonna hear My Hero. Relax, guys. I want to hear Generator and Halo and shit like that.
Jason, I'll pose this question to both of you. Do you think that sometimes you go to a show and you feel like a band is playing at you? Like you want to hear the music.
Yes.
So you're okay with that. But there's a difference between playing at you and playing for you or even with you.
Oh, yeah. And I think Pearl Jam expects more from their fans. I think it's like a respect. I think it's like they know our fans want this level that we're operating at now, and we can't just skirt away on our laurels. Like we have to deliver now. And so I think it's like it's momentous in that way. And it's a mutual appreciation society because there's respect for both avenues. Whereas like I've seen bands where it's like, Foo Fighters, I'm sorry, I love them, but I know when Taylor was still around, Dave and Taylor are going to have that little bit they do with the, it's just the same thing. It's like they're doing a theater production where everything is cued and staged, whereas Pearl Jam is an experience. It's so different.
The only thing that you got that was the same, at least in the early days, was Eddie, almost killing himself. But even that, it was a different girder. It was a different speaker system. It could have been a crane, Yeah.
Well, to be fair, they only had like one album at the time, so they couldn't really vary it up too much.
True. That's very true. Yeah. But like even with Metallica, every time they play Seek and Destroy over the last 25 years, the Beach Balls come out. It's like, all right, I get it.
But it's like on cue. You just Yeah, it's like you're just part of the stage crew because you know what's going to happen, and then it's just flat.
I wonder, and you probably have an idea. I would think talking to so many musicians, but like these guys and gals, they know what the demos are of who's buying the tickets. They know they can look at Spotify and say, well, in this geofence, people are loving this song, so we should play it at this venue. So there's a lot of data and analytics around it. And I'm just wondering if they play to that too much and it's almost like it becomes robotic in a sense. You know what I mean? And Pearl Jam's just like, well, we know because of the analytics who's coming, and because it's like kind of almost all 10 Club people that they demand a level from us. At the same time, we want to make sure that whoever's new is going to get, a black and a better man and given the fly. We got to have tempos.
Or that's the show that they want to play. And you need an audience that's going to be receptive to that and is willing to come to a show not expecting the same formula and being disappointed if they don't get that,
But I think that's why they have multiple nights in cities too, right? Because it's like, which night are you going to go to? Are you going to go to the hits night? Or are you going to go to the really obscure night? It's a toss up. But I think that they do that. They have the one night. I've been to many nights like that, or 2 show sets like that, where it's been that dynamic. But yeah.
You said of Seattle and the number of bands that were born in the 80s and into the next decade, that from bad times often comes great music, citing several economic problems in that region. And you've been doing this music thing for a long time, this music journalism thing for almost 20 years, like we said. Where do you think the next great music scene will be, considering the times they are not so good right now in a lot of places. You got a lot of places to choose from. So where you cover the music, where is the next pocket that there's a lot of things bubbling up?
Oh my God, that's such a great question. Well, shoot, Chicago could be very well. We're struggling here right now for sure with a lot happening in our city.
We see what's happening.
Yeah, it's actually really sad, but but Chicago too. I mean, I will say that we have a really awesome community of a lot of artists here right now. And Chicago was poised to become the quote unquote next Seattle. Like Playboy did this huge article positing Chicago as the next big rock scene in the mid 90s, and it never manifested. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. But I wrote a piece last summer about the second big wave of Chicago rock is really active right now. There's a lot of bands getting signed to majors, doing huge tours, going to Japan and major festivals, and that sort of like DIY arts kind of scene. So I would love to see it happen in Chicago, but I personally right now I'm feeling a lot of rock music out of the UK and Ireland. So beyond even just the States, I think and music from that part of the world has always been great, but I just feel like there's such a ballsy attitude there right now. Like if you looked back at the festivals this past year, how many bands were quote unquote canceled or fired by their management or dropped by their booking agents because they made statements about Palestine and Gaza or any other kind of socio-political thing going on. And I just didn't feel that same vocal nature at the American festivals this year. So I think there's just a different attitude over there right now. And I'm really loving the music coming out of that.
2 points to that. We've had a couple of bands from Cardiff on this show. Cardinal Black, fabulous band out of Cardiff.
Oh, that's a great band. Yeah.
They're so cool. And they play such great music. And it's very similar in the way that you and the band are kind of in this experience together, which I love. And then James and the Cold Gun.
James.
Oh my God, their new record is fantastic. They're on Stone's Loose Groove Records, which is how I heard about them. And they're a great bunch of people. And they're coming back here in December. I just got word of that, so that's great.
Wait, what's the name of the band?
James and the Cold Gun.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look him up. I think I meant like James, like from Manchester, who I just saw at Riot Fest and blew me away.
Yeah, I just saw them at Ohana, and they were great.
Oh God, they were so good. I wasn't expecting it. Yeah.
Yeah. But James and the Cold Gun.
Okay.
They have 2 LPs out. The newest one came out this past April. They're great. They're really cool people and just straight up rock and roll. But I want to ask you, what are some of the bands in Chicago that are like on the up and up that I should be looking out for then?
Yeah, totally. Frico, great band. Horse Girl.
Frico, like the cheese.
KO.
That's KO. Okay.
KO, Frico, yeah. Horse Girl, who's on Matador, Neil Francis, who is like this really interesting kind of Elton John. He's like a modern piano man, but really dialed into like 70s and funk and with a modern rock bent. I love Neil Francis. Bridget Calls Me Baby has been kind of moderately blowing up. They're also signed to ATO, and they have like the singer actually was Elvis Presley in a production of $1 Million Baby. So he's got that amazing crooner voice.
Wow.
Really good. But they also have like kind of like a Morrissey thing going on. Really great band. I'm trying to think of who else right now. Those are the ones that are at the top of my list. But there's a really good band called Friend of a Friend, who I discovered recently. Very moody, kind of like Radiohead meets like PJ Harvey meets like
cool.
Bjork kind of style. Really good. Yeah, there's so much good music, and it's so different, right? Like we have a great hip hop community here as well. Some of the best rappers right now are coming out of Chicago. But yeah, the rock scene is really active right now. And we have so many clubs to support it, which is great because they have a platform to go out and play. Yeah.
That is one of the beautiful things about Los Angeles too, is that there are so many friggin' venues. It's like, pick a pin, just throw a pin. Yeah. Or throw a dart.
And Seattle too.
Yeah.
Seattle. Like I'm actually like surprised there were so many music clubs in Seattle, knowing that there weren't that many bands coming through town, but there were so many in that era.
Okay. So before we leave you, or before you leave us, I should say, tell everybody watching and listening why this is requisite reading on a Pearl Jam fans bookshelf. It's already on ours, but
I got it.
Yeah, well, thank you guys. I have to say, first of all, the design team did a fantastic job. I don't have a hand on that. I'm not an artsy person. I'm just a writer, but they put together such a great collection of photos that really go in tandem with what I'm talking about from the live experience. You can see it right there and feel that emotion in those photos. I painstakingly typed out all 1,100 plus tour dates. So if you just want to see someone's hard work, did all that myself.
Wow.
But no, I mean, on a serious note, I will say that, I think if you're a fan of Pearl Jam, that is like the spirit of the book, right? I wanted to get the fan voices in there. That's why I have 20 show memories of people, whether they're journalists, photographers, they're fans, they're emotional. There's a woman Michelle, who wrote about going through chemo last year, having cancer, not knowing if she would make it, and seeing as many Pearl Jam shows as she could.
Wow.
They're beautiful stories that just give credence to why this band is so important to so many people. And I tried to put some good nuggets in there of like really important shows and like the hidden pearl from those nights, or maybe something that happened that people didn't realize. So hopefully people enjoy it.
Outstanding. And the last question for you from me would be this. If there's a missing chapter from you, what would it entail? So your moment, 10 shows, like is it Pearl Jam 20 or is it something else?
I thought you were going to say like the missing chapter, which would be Matt Cameron leaving the band, because that news broke after we went to production. I was like, that's just great timing. But but I will say I'm actually happy the way it turned out, because Matt Cameron gets a lot of love and support in this book, and I would have it no other way. I don't want to talk about his departure. Yeah. So, but the missing chapter from my fandom.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, it's just always going to be PJ20, because that was the turning point for me that brought me back into the band. But you know what? I will say also the documentary. I remember feeling very moved after seeing that documentary, and it actually like edified me wanting to be a music journalist, because at that time I was kind of newer in my career, and it made me just feel really strong about wanting to document different bands and the effects they had on people and how they added to like our history, because there is so much to be said about what this band did with the times we were living in and how they were a part of people's lives and added to people's lives. So for me, it always just comes back to that era. Yeah. The PJ20
There's something
era.
about that time. And I was talking with a friend of the show, Matt Vaughn from Easy Street Records, who you mentioned because of the Live Easy Street thing, which he says he keeps pushing Eddie to have them release the entire concert, because what you get on the LP is not the entire concert. And I'm like, Matt, come on. Anyways, he argued that we might never see a moment like that, because it was so significant and life-changing for people, because of what you said, this old millennial Gen X kid who is completely disaffected, and this just grabbed your heart and just yanked you with it. It's hard to write about a group like this. And I'm reading this book and I'm like, all right, is she going to mention that? She does. Okay, good. Cool. And you're like, is she going to get that part too? Okay, cool. And it's like every point that you're like, man, I hope she mentions this, because man, there are some great fans, and there are some, for lack of a better term, fuckers out there who are just going to nitpick. They're just going to, that one thing you didn't say.
Yeah.
And God damn it, there's like, I can't really find any fault with the data part of it, right? You've hit it. You've hit all the points. And that adds some gravitas to the story that you're weaving through the interviews and through the anecdotes from these people. So when you have a set of books that have come out about Pearl Jam, like I said at the top, to sit on that shelf and be worthy of that shelf in Pearl Jam fans' eyes and hearts means something. And I'm putting this fucker up there next to PJ20 right now.
You're going to make me cry again. See, Pearl Jam always cry.
Don't cry.
That's so beautiful.
No,
Thank you for that.
I mean it. Because
it was hard to write this book, because I had that in mind. I know Pearl Jam fans are very devoted, and there's so many, like I said, who are going to know so much more than I even know, just from the research I did for the better part of a year. But that was the hope of it, right? Like, I come from it from a fan perspective. I'm one of you. I want to share the story of this band, but maybe put it in a context that maybe everyone hasn't sort of like put the pieces together before. Of, again, they're a band for the people, and they've been really important. And they're a band who has, for our generation, carried us through some really hard times within that scene alone. They're when Lane died, when Kurt died, when Chris Cornell died. I mean, there's so much tragedy. If you're a fan of this scene, we've had to deal with so much tragedy, and Pearl Jam has kind of always been there as the one to kind of be there for us when all this stuff keeps happening.
Yeah.
And I just think their importance is just, you can't talk about it enough.
Absolutely agreed. This book that we've been gushing about here, this is out now, is it not?
Yeah, it just came out yesterday, that 14th. So this week, yep, it's out.
Well, last week, as the people are listening or watching
There
this,
you go.
because this is how we record stuff.
Yes.
It's so one could procure this now. What's the best place that's going to help you and the publisher buy this? Where should they buy it?
Well, people can buy it anywhere. It's very accessible, whether you like to shop at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target. But what I will say, I always say, is please support your local mom and pop bookstores. They need all the love right now in this era that we're living in. So if they don't have it, they can certainly order it from the publisher and they can get it to them. So please do try to give support to your locals.
Cool. This is awesome. Selena, thank you for staying awake. I know, like you see, you're always awake, but still, you know, it's an effort, and we appreciate it, and we appreciate this book and the time and the detail that you went to craft it. And so, welcome to the bookshelf, Selena Fragassi.
Oh, I'm honored. And I was really looking forward to this chat, so I was happy to stay up. Thank you guys so much.
Appreciate you having me.
Thank you guys.
And thank you once again to Selena for coming on, staying up late in Chicago to talk about her fabulous book. Paul, look at this thing. It's gorgeous.
It's a beaut.
Clark, right?
Yep, it's a beaut, Clark.
I love the purple and the pink shades of the 10 cover.
It's funny when I first when that thing first showed up, and she talked about the graphic design behind it. I mean, obviously, cover to cover, the whole thing's fantastic. But when I first held it, I'm like, this is beautiful. I mean, this is a book. This is a must have. So it's amazing what, they say, don't judge a book by its cover, but I'm judging, and it's favorably. So
look at that, Paul.
Oh yeah, that's the spirit.
Mike McCready and our namesake. There you go, Erica.
That's
there
fantastic.
Get the book. Get the book. Enjoy the book. I enjoyed it. I read it in 2.5 days. Bang, 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 bang. Done.
Page turner.
And just again, thank you, Selena, for taking the time, because it is a Herculean effort to make something that the Pearl Jam community is going to be like, wow, you hit the notes. You got it right. Like we are a stubborn bunch, are we not?
Yeah, we shouldn't be.
Come on.
We shouldn't be. Maybe that's our area for growth as a community. Not mine, yours, but
Oh, we're fine. we don't nitpick at all, Paul. Oh, credibility out the window. Anyways, thank you, Selena. Go buy the book. There's links everywhere down below. Maybe there was a bar on the screen. Who the hell knows? But she's great. The book's great. You should go get it. If you want to support this show, there is Patreon. There is the Pod Shop where you can buy all kinds of cool merch. Hey, look at this. I've been drinking my beer out of this cool Pilsner glass with the State Love and Trust, what is this? The Bootlegs logo. How fun is that?
I love it.
You can go ahead and support the ARC, which is our October nonprofit. Send them a whole bunch of money. They support people with learning disabilities across the country.
You do that, and you get stickers. How about that?
Don't forget the pin, Paul. The pin's always good too. Love a good button pin, and of course the guitar pick. There we go. You gotta put it in front of your face, otherwise the camera doesn't focus on it. Camera 1, camera 2.
There's probably a lot of people watching it right now. They're like, "Could you just leave the pic there the whole hour?" I mean, it's like,
I'm gonna get like one of those.
Both of you,
just
leave it there the
with
whole
a
hour.
stick, and put it in front of my face the entire show and just talk through it. Like that's much better. Anyways, all that stuff's down below. We thank you for clicking on any of it. And if you're here on YouTube, easiest thing you can do to help us is like that video. Bing, bing, bing below. There it is. It's right there. You can just, there you go. Thank you very much. And subscribe as well would be great. You can also subscribe where else, Paul?
you can rate, review, and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform of choice. Feed that algorithm so this axe-wielding maniac doesn't come after you if you don't. And I mean the guy on the shirt, not the guy wearing the shirt, just so we're clear.
Yeah, because the people who are listening only are like, are you talking about you? Why do you have an axe in the room? What is happening?
It's I have an egg shaker.
Oh, boy. The callback's good the first time. The second time, I don't know.
Yeah, all right. We're off the rails.
Very questionable. We'll see you next week, gang. And until we do, you've been listening to or watching
The State of Love and Trust.